All right, so this is the wrongful termination assignment from Monday. Okay, so I'm just going to summarize these and tell you kind of why stuff happened. I'm not necessarily going to tell you what I would have done or, um, you know, anything like that because a lot of these are really opinionated. It really believes in what you think is right or wrong. Um, so in this one, we have two guys yelling at each other about being too loud. Eventually, one of them gets mad enough and says, "Let's take this outside." People break it up, so it never becomes a fight. But one employee gets fired for saying, "Let's take it outside," and is talking about being violent. The other one only gets reprimanded, so maybe like a week without pay or suspended or something like that. So they have the right to fire the one guy because they, as it says here, the company had a policy stating that threats of violence subjected offenders to termination on first offense. So, because they had that written in the contract and both of them agreed to it, the one who threatened the other was able to be fired. Um, now, you know, people uh, dislike that because both of them. We could say that both of them were pushing for it. Both of them wanted to fight each other. Both of them were kind of being violent, and so that could kind of be an issue there. But that was up to you on deciding. Number two, okay, this is about a CEO who is basically a bad guy. No one really liked him. The board of directors didn't think he was doing a good job. They needed to find a reason to fire him because they haven't really. Um, there was, it was pretty specific as to how you had to fire, how he had to be fired without getting severance. So they couldn't really find anything necessarily that was fireable. And then they go into his email, look at his email, and he's talking about illegally gambling and stuff like that, which would be rights to be fired. They go into the email, they show it to him, they fire him, and then it's like, no, 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 you're not allowed to do that because you went into my email um, without like really probable cause or anything. They were just going to look for something that was wrong, and I'm assuming here that they aren't allowed to have access to um, emails. So so the CEO, you know, fought back, said, "Look, you can't fire me for this," all that kind of stuff. So you had to determine if it was right that he was able to get fired, um, and or not. So that was up to you. Then we got the last one, the age discrimination one. So there's an old guy basically who has done his job, never had any issues about his job, ends up getting fired after the manager says that he's no longer a spring chicken. He gets replaced by a 29-year-old without any experience. So he fights back and says, "Look, you can't fire me just because I'm 64. I haven't had anything wrong, blah, 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 and I have more experience than the person in front of me." So he has a um, pretty good argument there, especially that there was no paper trail or, like we talked about, um, yes or last week about having due process in order to fire someone. Um, there was no complaints filed or like performance reviews or anything like that where they were able to fire him. So that one I feel like probably most people ended up